Weaving on a chipboard loom. There are many different weaving techniques. This diagram of 9 different techniques shows the different variety. For the purpose of this video, we will be doing a tabby weave, also known as over and under. Supplies needed: chipboard loom, tape, scissors, yarn, tapestry needle. Stretch the yarn over the board and wedge the end into the first slit. Turn your board over and tape the end of the yarn to the back of the loom. Then begin wrapping the yarn as seen here. These threads of yarn are known as warp threads. When you have completely threaded the loom, cut the yarn and tape the end to the reverse side of the loom. I prefer to use a cardboard shuttle to weave. I have taken a piece of cardboard and cut it into an approximately 4-inch long, 1.5-inch wide rectangle and cut grooves in each end. The yarn used in the weaving process to make the design is called weft yarn. Wrap yarn around the shuttle. Later in the video, I will demonstrate using a tapestry needle. Begin weaving by inserting the shuttle into the warp threads, alternating the under and over. Don't worry if you are clumsy at first, you will get the hang of it. Over and under, leaving approximately a 6-inch tail of yarn off to the side from where you began. Leave approximately 3 inches from the top of your loom when you are weaving. When you reach the edge of the row, reverse your pattern going under and over. As you continue to add rows, push the yarn or the weft up with your fingers. You can also use a wide tooth comb to achieve a tight weave. Be careful not to pull the edges too tightly, as your weaving will begin to get narrower as you go along. If you leave your edges slightly loose, you will end up with nice, neat edges. I have finished the first section of dark purple, making a 1-inch row. Now I am switching colors to add another 1-inch band of light purple. I have left the tail of dark purple off to the edge of my loom, and I begin my new section by leaving a tail of yarn off to the side as well. Over and under and over. I have made my 2 sections of purple. I'm using 3 colors of yarn in my design. Now I am using a section of coral. To make a design, count the number of rows in each section you want to repeat. I am going to add another section of light purple below the coral. I am counting the number of rows to make sure that my design is even. The final row I am adding is dark purple. I will begin using a shuttle, but then switch to a tapestry needle. You'll notice that I have kept my edges nice and loose so that the design has not pulled and narrowed towards the end. I am finishing my section of dark purple, so let's look what it's like to use a tapestry needle. Like the shuttle, you pull the yarn through the design. Using the comb, tighten your weave. Over and under and over. However, I find it cumbersome to pull the length of yarn through the weave each time. Also, I have found it more difficult to prevent the edges from getting too tight. The primary design is complete. I could have stopped here and made a nice kitchen pot holder, but I really want to show you how to make a wall hanging. Tighten the weave with the comb. Now I am adding a raya or fluff knot. Using two 4-inch lengths of yarn, fold the pieces in half and make a U shape. Slip the U shape under two of the warp threads and pull the yarn through the U. This is called a lark's knot, similar to the knot you would use to attach a luggage tag. Continue adding the raya knots. Don't worry about making the links even, as I will show you how to trim the ends. Continue with the raya knots across the design. Straighten the raya threads. Using your comb, push the knots up into the design. Now flatten out the raya threads. Tear a piece of tape the width of your design and place it over the yarn beneath the knots. You will be trimming the uneven lengths of yarn by cutting along the edge of the tape, but be careful not to cut the warp threads. Remove the tape and brush away any remnants of the cut yarn. You are now ready to release the warp threads from one end of your loom. Unwrap the warp threads from the loom. Cut the loop and tie the loose ends together in double knots. If you were making a coaster or a pot holder, you would not add the raya, and you would trim the double knots as close to the edge of your weaving as possible. Before removing the warp threads from the other end of your loom, flip the design over and tie off the loose ends from the edges where you changed colors of yarn. Then tuck the ends into the design. You can use the tapestry needle if necessary. You are ready to release the final warp threads from the loom. As this is the section of your weaving that will most likely be shorter than the other warp threads, you will pull the warp threads until you have a section long enough to make a butterfly knot. Continue making loops with the threads and tie the ends from each side by securing them into the weave on the back side of your weaving. For my wall hanging, I am using a piece of driftwood. You can also use a wooden dowel or a small cardboard tube. I am sliding the driftwood through the loops and pushing the design into the middle. Then I added a 12-inch length of yarn, tying each end to the warp threads, creating a hanger for my wall art. Before I reveal my project, I want to show you two previous projects that I made. The first is a blue and coral weaving in which I made 2 coral patches of color and 2 rows of raya. To make the coral patches, I weaved the coral yarn midway across in a 1-inch patch, then completed the width with the blue. This piece was done with a tapestry needle, and I failed to keep my edges loose, so the overall piece narrows towards the bottom. The second piece was done with 2 shades of blue. I created this weaving with a row of raya knots in the center of the piece and simply tied off the ends in double knots. This was a more successful project. Here's my finished project, simple and sweet. I could add beads, but I like it the way it is.
Created and produced by THERESA ZELAZNY and April Sullivan, an ArtSpark Texas production. Copyright 2020. Thank you to our funders, Texas Commission on the Arts, St. David's Foundation, Cultural Arts City of Austin, National Endowments for the Arts Creative Forces, Austin Public Library, and Donald D. Hamill Foundation.